And we provide training for HR professionals and company supervisors, and we provide divorce coaching and case management for your divorcing employees. And I want to introduce you to Paulette Rigo. Say hi, Paulette. She is a certified divorce coach, a certified divorce specialist, credentialed mediator, and director of coaching and management right here at Divorce Right. And together we tackle the biggest disruptor in your business, in your company, and that is divorce. And a reminder to those in as a member of SHRM, we have SHRM credits for you, and we will post a link at the end of this broadcast so that you can grab those credits. And today we have another expert that provides relief for your divorcing employees. Today we have Dr. Sue Kahn Palmer, and I would love to tell you about this amazing woman from the UK. Dr. Sue Palmer, aka the Divorce Doctor, is a chartered psychologist who has turned her professional experience, skills, and training into a thriving divorce coaching career. Divorced herself at 50 after a 25-year marriage, Sue now works primarily with women over 50 facing divorce. In addition to coaching, Sue is also a principal of the Divorce Coaching Academy, where she is training the next generation of divorce coaches, and I love her program. In May 2022, Sue and two colleagues opened the Family Transition Company, a UK-based company very similar to Divorce Right. Their family transition policy has been approved by the Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation in the UK. Sue is also an Amazon #1 author on both sides of the Atlantic with her recent book, From Me to We, Conversations to Help You Plan the Marriage, Not Just the Wedding. So welcome, Sue. We're so happy to have you here all the way over from the UK. Thank you so much. I know it's evening over there.
It is. And thank you for having me.
Thank you. So happy to have you here. And today we're going to be talking about your family transition policy and why we should consider bringing that to the United States, because it just makes sense. Paulette, I'm going to let you get started.
Well, Sue, it is such an honor to have you here. I remember when you and I met a few years ago on Clubhouse, and you never know who you're going to meet. And here we are raising the bar at this profession. So thanks again for your time. And I'm really fascinated by the family transition policy. It's new to me. I want to learn everything about it. It sounds like it's something we need to have here too. So could you explain a little bit about what the family transition policy actually is and why we need it? Why is it so needed?
Well, I mean, as you know, when people are going through divorce, productivity falls off immensely. And it's not just for the person going through divorce. You know, you've got to think about their spouse as well, their children, their wider family, their colleagues, and it just spirals. It's like a ripple effect. And so we've got so many family-friendly policies that it just astounds me that they've never taken this life-changing event into account. In the UK, we've recently introduced menopause policies so that women going through menopause have flexibility in their work. They can have specially designed workstations. They can have extended leave if they are going through brain fog, etc. But closely allied with that, and if you think of the average age of divorce is about 45 to 55, that's the exact age that women are going through menopause. And there is a very, very close correlation between menopause and divorce. You know, with menopause, the brains start rewiring itself. And by the time you've got out of menopause, so that you postmenopausal, your brain has left that mummy brain wanting to nurture everybody and wanting to avoid arguments, etc. And then this assertive woman metamorphoses out of it. And she suddenly realizes, I might have 20, 30, 40 years staring across this breakfast table at this person I don't even like. And in that age group, especially over 50, 2/3 of the divorces are instigated by women.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the other things that that I've noticed with that gray divorce is that women now have had our generation has had a uh, we've been now educated. We've gone to college. We've
Yeah.
developed our careers, and financially, we're no longer connected by that financial need as much
Mhm.
as we were back in the 40s and 50s, where it was, you stayed financially because you really didn't have another answer. So this generation, once the kids are out of school, and to your point, menopause has kicked in, they're looking at their husband at the other side going, I don't recognize you anymore, and I don't recognize why we're here.
Yeah.
And they're very capable of actually leaving a marriage financially, capable of taking care of themselves, which was, something that was different, not too many years ago.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. But I mean, in addition to that, we have to think about, the lack of support that is offered generally by employers to their employees. Maybe because they don't know about it, maybe because nobody, no employee tells them that they're going through divorce, but that might be because they don't feel that they're going to get support.
Yeah.
And some research that one of our law firms did showed that 87% of employees felt that they didn't get any or not very much support from their employers. And that's one of the reasons why we wrote this family transition policy.
Mm.
So support from their employers around the divorce process itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we found is that's what the studies show here as well, is that it's the number one reason divorcing employees quit.
Yeah.
10% of divorcing employees walk out the door. So when
Yeah.
you've got, there's an opportunity here, employers, to develop a program that supports these people so that
Yeah.
they don't leave. Because when you have your A-listers, your top quality control people, and you can't afford to lose them, this is a reason that they don't stay. They don't feel supported in this process. And they felt, we've all heard, keep your divorce at home. Don't bring it here to the office. Well, it's like asking me not to bring my arm to the office, right? It's just a
Yeah.
part of who I am.
And it's also, people take their work home, and that might be a major cause of their divorce, especially, people that are working shift work. So they may not see their family for days on end, and the spouse left at home may feel neglected, the children may feel neglected, and then when they turn up, they have all this resentment built up. And bringing the work home, especially if you think about working from home during COVID and lockdown, etc.,
Mm.
the increase in the number of marriage breakdowns was enormous.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I think we're about to go through that again. And and what's going on with the COVID again. We're gonna see a lot more of that as this comes up this winter. And hopefully, it will not uh last, but it does cause this, right? When you're stuck
Absolutely.
inside
Yeah.
the house with
Yeah.
somebody that you don't know or don't like anymore.
Yeah.
It
Well, I mean,
definitely was a
employers need to reciprocate the feelings. If they're saying don't bring home into work, they've got to realize that they shouldn't be expecting their employees to take work home.
mm,
Mm. And so, can you share a little more with us about what exactly is covered inside the policy? Because I love the name of it and the idea of it for every reason that we've been discussing. And the correlation between divorce and menopause, it blows me away. There's such a shift in the mindset internally and externally in women when the child rearing years come to an end. And
Yeah.
of course, that's later and later now. I think back in the 50s, it was if you were 30 and you were having a baby, there was something wrong with you. Whereas that's just now when women start to think about it, right? And now you're 45 and you find out you're pregnant and you're like, oh boy. But there is a major shift, and it does affect the husband, the children, the family as a whole, and their job. So tell us more about this policy. What's included in it?
It's twofold, really. It's asking employers to look at adding this to their family-friendly policies. So looking at flexible working, allowing them to take either paid or unpaid leave, and having that leave so that that is flexible too, so they're not going to get penalised, so they can take it in either, if they give them 10 days of unpaid or paid leave, they can take it in one week or a 2 week block, 2 1 weeks or 1 2 week blocks, or 10 individual days, or any other length of leave that they want to give. Some employers are much more flexible than others and can afford to. The smaller firms probably can't afford to give them more than 10 days. But if you think about how supportive that would be for people having to go to court, having to go to mediation, having to go and see their lawyer, or emergency, if they're the ones that have got the children with them, school phones up and the child's sick, having to take leave at no notice at all and not get penalised, that would be immense. The other part of it is to build support systems within the company and have access to support systems outside.
And would that include
Would that include coaches?
would it, or is that a part of it, or is that a separate entity?
The way that we work, we run awareness raising courses. So that's just a lunch and learn or a half day course to raise awareness for people in employee assistance programs or HR or the C-suite people. So that's the first element. The second element, we actually offer to train in-house divorce coaches.
Mhm.
I worked recently, earlier this year, with two people from Merseyside Police. So one was a police officer, one was a staff member, and I trained them in the same way as we would train the students, but had to be very flexible because of their shift patterns, etc. So they couldn't join our main course, but I did it separate as a pilot study. And when they qualified, within 2 weeks of them qualifying, they'd already seen 5 people.
Mm.
So you can see how desperate it is for them to get help. Then the third strand is we can link them up with any of our team of divorce coaches. And then the fourth bit that we do is we have a directory of professionals from a range of professions that can help them.
That's
So they're
really
getting
important, having those
resources.
resources. Yeah.
Yeah.
Resources is everything. Just knowing where to turn is so super important. And I know that things are different there than they are here in the US. And having all of those that are, just really being supportive and offering those helps, that's we see that is a tremendous uh, uh, you know support system for the employee going through it, because they don't know where to turn. There is no course on this. You don't come out of college knowing how to go through a divorce. You don't even go through life knowing how to go through a divorce, and you're thrown into this labyrinthine
Yeah.
system of craziness, and you don't know what to do. So having all of those resources at your fingertips makes it just that much easier. And then having the help from somebody that says, this is the type of professional that you need at this moment, right? Whereas for me, it was just, I think I don't even know that I need, and what am I supposed to do? And it cost me tens of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
in making bad decisions. It really
Yeah.
did.
And so often people think that the first protocol should be to a lawyer.
Right. Wrong.
But if they go to a lawyer before they've got their emotions in check, it's going to cost them a lot of money, because lawyers become very expensive boxes of tissues.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And you're just not mentally there yet to be able to make those. And that was me, right? I mean, I was being held in contempt of court for not being able to fill out my financial affidavit, because it felt like this living, breathing dragon that I had to fill out. And I was like, every time I put pen to paper, it was like, well, this relationship was, not real. This wasn't what I thought it was. And so therefore, I was just reliving all of that trauma every day. Whereas if I had had the support of somebody to help me through it, I could have gotten through it and been a better client to my attorney. I was not a good client to my attorney.
Yeah.
Most people, I can't imagine most people are.
No, they're not. And, we're trying to persuade people towards mediation or other alternative dispute resolution paths, rather than going through the lawyer and possibly ending up in court, because we have such a huge backlog of court cases. If they can, even if they are at each other's throats, they can have what we call shuttle mediation. So the mediator will go from room to room, so they don't ever have to meet face to face if they don't need to. But how many people know about that before they start?
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Sue, I'm curious because, of course, here we are over in the US, but I'm dying to know what kind of response you've received from launching this initiative.
Well, initially, our first protocol was to talk to one of our MPs, our members of parliament, who now just happens to be the Minister for Wales. Our HR consultant lives in Wales, so we've got a really good connection. He looked at it and said, why hasn't this been done before? He passed it on to the Minister in charge of business, who passed it on to the Minister in charge of small businesses, who then said, this needs to go through Parliament, go and do something about it. So we're now at the stage where we are just sort of talking to organisations, but we've had an absolutely amazing response so far.
That's amazing. We hope to bring that here to the United States, and with our Department of Personnel, so that at least federal employees can have something like this, because it's so important. So, which other policies should the family transition policy be read in conjunction with, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, when you think about other family-friendly policies, you've got things like compassionate leave for bereavement. You need the same, because people go through exactly the same grief cycle,
right,
but with more ups and downs and more loopbacks, and for a longer period of time with divorce.
Yep.
So they need to have compassionate leave. So it needs to be looked at alongside the compassionate leave policy. It needs also to be looked at alongside the work-life balance policy. So making sure that the stress that they're going through, the physical, the emotional, the psychological stress, isn't added to by work stress. So they need to really look very carefully about how compassionate they can be and not put any more stress on them, and encourage them to get this better work-life balance. Even if it means, working part-time initially or working flexible so that they condense 5 days into 4 so that they've got a day at home to get stuff sorted out. Obviously, it needs to be looked at alongside employee well-being. So, the ripple effect of divorce will have a knock-on effect with colleagues. So, they may have to cover for absenteeism. So we need to look at that. So we've also got to compensate for presenteeism. That's a huge one. So that needs to be looked at. Special leave arrangements, as we were talking about before. If people have got to move home because of their divorce, or they've got to have more flexible arrangements for childcare, or they may need access to mental health services, psychological, emotional support. Flexible working is an obvious one. Parental leave, that might be covered under flexible working. But if somebody is now having full-time care for the children, it's almost like having a newborn again.
Right.
Especially if it's been the parent who hasn't had full-time care of them previously. Management of long and short-term absences. That's another policy that they need to think about. Sick pay, bullying and harassment, because if somebody has been in an abusive or a controlling relationship at home, they're going to be even more vulnerable when they're in work. So that needs to be looked at really carefully.
Right.
And,
Interesting.
that needs to be monitored by the supervisors, and any potential adverse conditions at work need to be reported. And then another one that you might want to think about is equal opportunities, diversity and inclusion, because becoming a single parent or a newly single person, there shouldn't be disadvantage for promotion or other opportunities. Mental health, that's an obvious one. So the family transition policy really needs to be looked at alongside all of those.
And I know we've talked about the menopause policies that are there, and let's go through one more time the relationship between menopause and divorce, so that people can, because in that age group, I want to focus on that for a moment, because that's where your high compensated, high potential, they have your, intellectual capital in their heads as they walk out the door, if 10% of them are going to leave. So, that menopause age group is important. So can you go back over that one more time before we close this up today, about that importance between menopause and divorce?
Yeah. Average age of a woman getting divorced is 45. Menopause or perimenopause, the average age for starting is about 43, 44, 45, and can last 10 years. The highest number of divorces are between 45 and 55. And when a woman is going through menopause, besides the physical changes that she's going through, there are cognitive changes, and the brain rewires. And so the rewiring initially will cause a lot of brain fog. And one of the things that research is showing is that women going through perimenopause shouldn't work more than 4 days a week, because their brains are going to be overtaxed as they're going through this rewiring process. So the other thing is that in some cases, the cognitive decline is so strong that some of them have to leave work or go very, very part-time. And so when we're looking at spousal support after the divorce, this should be taken into account. And so many judges, family lawyers, they don't even think about asking a woman, is she perimenopausal?
Interesting.
So
Well, there's just so many things that go on in a family. Children leave, right? Children
yeah,
are off to school, off to college. A lot of families wait until the kids are off to college
yeah,
to end that, and it does go through and hit that perimenopausal and menopausal age group.
yeah.
Just so it's like all a
And then
part of, and how you uh
it's
dissect that, I don't
it's
know.
really difficult to untangle it. But there's also aging parents as well.
Oh
And,
gosh, yes.
fast approaching retirement. So, if the woman has been a stay-at-home mum,
Yep.
how is she going to be compensated
Mm.
for the support that she's given to her husband to build up this wonderful pension pot that he thinks is his, because he's worked very hard for it?
It's a crazy time. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Sue, the divorce doctor. We appreciate you so much, and I think that this is important to bring this across the pond to the United States, so we too have a family leave transition for you. If this is something that you're interested in, we would appreciate it if you would reach out to us, and we will make sure that you have that. And you can go to info@divorcerightinc.com to get your copy. Just reach out to us and we will make sure that you have that. Sue, thank you so much for staying up late with us over there in the UK and being a part of our show today. We hope that everybody found this very, very helpful in some of the decisions that you're making with your employees that are going through divorce. And we will see you next week as Paulette and I talk about divorce is seasonal, because we are coming up into a big season here in just a few weeks when we start kicking it up. So we're going to be talking about that and some of the steps you can take to help your employees go through that. So Dr. Sue, thank you so much for being a part of this today, and we will see you all next week. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Thank you,
Bye.
Sue.
Bye.